All right. Hello, fellow historians. Welcome to your next mini unit and notebook page 18. Ensure that you are labeling your notebook page 18 at the top somewhere and writing in monarchical centralization and new elites. Now, this is time period 2, 1450 to 1750. There's a lot going on, and we're just going to get started. So, monarchical centralization. You should have written this. This is like a subheading. Again, you're going to be paraphrasing these notes, writing them in your own words, or to make it easier, anything that is bold or underlined, just write that down if you're a little unsure. So, let's throw it all up here and see what is going on. Sometimes you might hear it say monarchical or monarchical. Okay, it's the same thing, rest assured. So as Europeans are going to become richer from trade because of their age of exploration, the conquest, the conquering of those Asian trade routes from the Portuguese throughout the Indian Ocean, as well as the Spanish and the English, who are dominating trade in the New World. But let's focus on Spain just in a second here. Governments are going to become more focused now on organizing tax collection and bureaucracy. So we already know about the Portuguese placing that Cartaz tax on the Indian Ocean after Vasco da Gama successfully found that route around the tip of South Africa. So rulers such as Philip II in Spain and Louis XIV in France, they begin to use their money and power to control nobles on the continent, minus Europe. In Europe, minus England. So, what was once a tug of war between nobles and the kings gradually became a more united, powerful, centralized system run by a monarch with a professional standing army rather than one dependent on the local soldiers of nobles. Under Louis XIV, nobles were incorporated into the central bureaucracy and military, and sometimes it was by force, to help maintain the central government. Many nobles opportunistically maintained their local economic and legal power and increased their overall power by taking central bureaucratic and military positions. On our next slide, still on the same notebook page, we have the divine right of kings. So some nobles opposed increased monarchical control, particularly in response to this theological doctrine that most kings would justify. They said, I have a divine right to be the ruler. We call this the divine right of kings. So the divine right of kings held that the king was a vessel through which God is ruling. So you have Louis XIV saying, if you oppose me and you don't like what I am doing with government, too bad, because I am a vessel of God. So God is ruling through me. So basically, that is the divine right of kings. So some kings, they exploited this policy and used state resources to build magnificent monuments and castles to demonstrate their power. A good specific piece of evidence for this would be the Versailles Palace in France. Or they're going to hire artists to paint extravagant monarchical portraits. And there we have Louis XIV there, exerting his power over the people. Effective monarchs incorporated the nobility into their bureaucracy and military and allowed them to keep their local authority, thus enhancing their total power. Let's move on. We have new elites now. They are the gentry class. The gentry class. So as Europeans grew richer from exploration, trade, silver, and cash crops, there was a new class of powerful people that were going to begin to emerge, the gentry. These are those people that were most likely taking stakes in businesses. We have joint stock companies that were banding together that were regular people putting in their cash so that they could get in on the piece of the pie of the exploration. This is the new class, the gentry. Like George Washington was part of the gentry. Thomas Jefferson will be part of this gentry class. It's just regular people. They're not noble, but they do grow rich from their industry, their business that they're participating in. So it's going to start in England and the Netherlands, the Dutch. Non-noble citizens and merchants begin to accumulate massive amounts of wealth and land. These non-nobles begin to use their newly acquired land in an innovative way, rather than offering up their excess grains as payment to lords, as we see in feudalism. They simply sold it at the marketplace. They made money. They didn't want to give it up the chain, up the hierarchy. No, they're going to sell it. So this concept of selling agriculture for profit is known as commercialization. This is a new, it quickly had a transformative effect on European society and economics. So once people started realizing we could just sell our excess grain in the marketplace, we don't have to give it away, we can make some money, and then now we'll be powerful. This is commercialization. Now, with motivation to farm as efficiently as possible, commercial farmers began to utilize the land and labor to maximize agricultural production. This meant two things: the closing off or fencing of their lands, known as an enclosure. Like, you put up a fence because you are maximizing agriculture production so that you can profit off of it in the marketplace. You put a fence up, closure. And also the removal of traditional peasantry who had enjoyed common land rights. So you're sort of starting to see this idea of private property emerge, which will come up right here with private property protection. All right, so problems will arise. Let me throw everything up here for you. Make sure you wrote down a subheading: private property protection. So problems will arise as 17th century monarchs were attempting to expand power and confiscate property. Traditionally, lords had technically rented land from the monarchy, and hence the declaration of fealty and monarchical tax payments extracted from the peasantry. However, in England, the gentry class increasingly sought protection of private property, and they refused to comply with their government without due tax power in England's parliament, which was limited to the House of Lords. The House of Lords is the nobility and clergy. After winning conflicts such as the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution, the gentry-laden House of Commons became increasingly powerful in Parliament. Well, not on the scale of England. Other urban, self-made gentry began to control local policies in all major port cities in the world. So, from 1500 to 1700, the old elites, the nobles, were soon equalized or surpassed in power and wealth by this new emerging gentry merchant class. Yes, and like I did say, George Washington is going to be one of those advocates for the gentry class. So you're starting to see away with the old, in with the new. Private property, protect our land. Government cannot come in and take any excess food or wealth that we are making. That is interesting. We're seeing us flow into a whole bunch of new topics, as well as a new economic system that is going to debut in time period 3. All right, that's it for today. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day.